You know, every single time I know I'm for real. You know it's about to get real. Yeah. Ba-da-ba-ba-bow. Shh. Ba-ba-bow. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Bow-bow. Yeah. Good. Morning, chili dogs.
You're listening to the sounds of R&B entertainment.
Ooh. Here we go. We're gonna make some more bass whistle forms today, guys. You ready? Ka-chow. Camera A. Whew. All right, guys. Move this over just a little bit here. All right, chili dogs. Making more water whistles. We're gonna keep on our idea of making 100 of them. We have 15 of them done now. So we're just gonna keep on cruising and see where we go. Right? Zoom. Zoom. There we go. Right underneath. Push that up. Bring that right into the vessel there. Nice. Again, going right down to the base. It's going to get a little bit wobbly, but that's okay. Continue to project that forward and bring this up. Alrighty. I finished trimming all those like little weird things, and so I got to make a video with those soon. I'll be doing that here maybe at the end of the stream. I'm probably going to cut the stream off and then do just setting them and getting the recordings of each of them. And then afterwards, probably going to make an edit. I also got some music software, some music editing software, so I'm trying to get to understand how to do that. But hopefully one day is we don't hear any copyrighted music in the background. It's just all my own, like random bits and pieces, right? So I'm looking forward to that, but we'll see. It's gonna take a while. I have like one song, and I'm all trying to make them all about a minute long, you know? But I feel like if I just keep cruising, hopefully by a year from now I'll have like 60 songs. I have an hour of uncopyrighted music. Alright, camera B. Alrighty. I'm gonna bring my knee back a little bit. Huh, does that seem a little bit off to you guys? Maybe. We'll see. Opening this up. Zoom. Hooking my finger back. And with these forms, we're really not trying to get anything too weird, right? We're just trying to make some platform for some interesting things to happen. I learned a couple things. First, I don't want to make these too round. Round is going to make it harder for those the tubing to connect. So that's something. I also want to make sure I keep that top closed in. The more open they are, the harder it is to get a seal, so you can't do a double whistle on the pour back, right? I'd be fine with silence or copyright-free atmospheric soundscapes. I feel like that's probably what I should do, but I like listening to music. That's my only problem. and I refuse to listen to like stuff that I don't like. You know, like I'm not gonna like look up uncopyrighted music. I'd rather just get the strike or whatever. Tim asked, "Do I eat clay?" I think you've seen a. I think you saw a short. Could I be right that you saw a short about me eating clay? It's so interesting. All right. Right underneath. I'm over here by that 6 o'clock area, and I find this little bump. Camera B. Space. There we go. Look at that. Alrighty. More water on there. How's it looking? Kind of like that. Alrighty. Again. My finger right at the bottom here. So I'm going to start bringing this up. I'm going to stop right about here. And we're going to start closing this in. Look at that. Okay, so now we got kind of like this tube shape. We're now got back to camera A. Camera A. Zoom. All right, so what you're gonna see here is that you're gonna see my fingers kind of be right underneath this shoulder that I'm making right here. So here's the shoulder. We're gonna sit right underneath this shoulder and we're gonna try to find a bump, right? So I'm gonna just slowly start projecting my fingers out so you can see that little bump that's forming. And then I'm at 5 o'clock, right? If my hand positioning is at 5 o'clock. So let's swap over to camera B. And I'm gonna start bringing my fingers from 5 o'clock over to 7 o'clock. So I'm cutting that rim in. And so do you guys kind of see what happens there? Is that this actually shrinks down. That middle shrinks down. So that's kind of the reason why you can collar through a pole, is if you cut it from 5 to 7, all of a sudden that stuff on that bottom, or that stuff on the side, has a smaller diameter that it can go through because you're cutting it through the clock, right? You don't want to go through the middle though. You're just going to take a little bit less of an angle over onto one or the other side. But usually you want it, imagine this is like if you're looking straight down, it's a circle, right? Circle. Water, the spinning, imagine it's like water, it's rolling over, but it's like this, so it's going this way. And so if it's like this and it's rolling over, you want your hands to be right where that's at. Imagine the waterfall is coming down, it's crashing against what? The rocks, that's your hands, right? And so you don't want to be reaching over, you always want the clay to crash, right? Watch, it's gonna crash right into these hands right here. I don't want to be over here, right? Because then there's no body weight over there. Then if I'm pulling it towards myself, I'm gonna start torquing that clay in a way that I don't really want, right? Okay, close in. Right down this bottom edge. So we're gonna go out a little bit wider. I'm just gonna slowly walk this up. Not doing anything too crazy. All right, now we're really gonna start taking this top in. And we're probably gonna collar actually twice, but you even see when I'm collaring, zoom. See how I'm bringing this in here. All fine, but is it safe to work without hand gloves? Are you talking about for mold? Yeah, I don't really mind mold. A lot of my reclaimed clay has a ton of mold in it. And you see, there I am, bringing it again back towards 7, and look how that looks from the front. Do you see how I'm finding this bump still? My interior hand, my interior finger, that's where this bump is, right? I've never seen potters use gloves. I've seen some, I have a lot of, like when I teach classes, there's a lot of like ladies who have like long nails, and they tell me that it helps them wearing plastic gloves so their nails don't cut into it, right? Yeah, I mean, they say it works, so I'll take their word for it, but I can imagine it being a little bit annoying, because like the thing about your fingers that's kind of nice is they're actually a little bit porous, right? And so like things release off your hands kind of easily because they are a little bit porous, right? Whereas gloves are very, what is it called? Gloves are not porous, so they stick to clay. I've seen someone else using. Yeah, I believe that I've seen some people doing it before, for sure. But I think it's more of like a personal preference thing. Okay. All right, again, right at the shoulder. Slowly walking this in. Bring this up. And we want to get this kind of flat. So you can see how it's not totally, you still see some of the inconsistencies there, right? And so all we're trying to do is, if we zoom into camera B, be right under this. I'm gonna just find where it feels like it's the most even. And I imagine this is like a fishing hook, you know? Once you feel the finger or the fish, which is the needle, bite your hook, which is your finger, you'll feel it bite. You just lift it up. And then, camera A, cheese. You know how people hold up their fish? She's hot. Look, I caught a fish, a minnow. All right. Alrighty. We can bring this up. And if you move this anymore, you're actually going to exaggerate, and it's going to get off center on the top again. So after you cut it, you kind of don't really want to do what I just did, but I've been really thinking about how to make these a little bit more interesting. See, I'll open that up there. See how that kind of works. Camera B. So you see how I kind of fold that over, right? The whole idea is I want to make this closed in enough where when I stick my thumb in here, it seals the air in there, right? That's kind of the point of the form I'm making right now. I'm just going to take some of this water off the top or the outside edge here. I'm really trying not to push that much. But you can see that I'm kind of trying to use the clay not as a shaping tool but as a cutting tool, right? And so you'll see, look at all that nice slop that we just got right off there. Yummy. So we're really not trying to form or shape the clay. We're just trying to cut using this wooden tool. I think that's the thing that a lot of people get wrong about this tool. Especially when you don't have your finger on the inside as support, you cannot be pushing through. You have to just be shaving, right? Okay, we're looking at this. We need a couple of lines here. So we're gonna put some little line work right on this top edge up here. And then I kind of like this idea here of this being like a little like a flower. Contain that flower. I like what's going on. We like this shoulder. We don't want to mess with that shoulder too much, but we'll go closer to the bottom part and we'll put another line here. And we're going to leave it like that. So we got some extra clay right here on this bottom edge. So now we got to get some of this off. I've seen a method where a potter presses a string into the clay after throwing, then dried, glazed, fired, then pulls the string off the string and fired. I thought it looked amazing. Yeah, some people would take a string. Correct me if this is what you're talking about. During this phase, they'll literally have the string wrap around this, and then they'll push in from the interior to kind of emphasize the curves, so it looks like it's kind of squeezing the vessel a little bit. And then people will remove that after they've maybe put a slip over top of it, and so then it emphasizes that line through the rest of the vessel. But I could be wrong. You can see how much I'm really just keeping the nose or the tip of this tool straight down. You always want it touching this clay. As soon as you remove that tip of that tool from touching the clay, it's going to build up clay in between the vessel and your tool. You don't want that, right? You want to avoid that at all costs, right? We're putting some water in between this layer. That way, so then when we take this off, it doesn't want to stick to the place where we just cut it from. And then this is also a lot of clay, so we're actually going to pull this out, and we're going to make one of our little things. You know, a lot of people will just remove this, and it isn't really anything, right? You said, oh damn, that's not exactly what I meant, but also sounds cool and creative. I've seen a method where, let me read what you said again. A potter presses a string into the clay after throwing. After throwing, so they like squeeze it. Then dried, glazed, and fired, and then pulls the string off, fired, and thought it looked amazing. I wonder if you're thinking of like a raku type pot. Did it come off in like shells of the came off? If so, I think I know what you mean. I think it was a type of raku firing. Not squeezed. Okay. But this stuff on the bottom, you know, this is the stuff that people want to remove. People want to get rid of this stuff. But this is the good stuff, right? This has so much potential, this little stuff down here, and I think it's so interesting. Nice, like the line was black and the line revealed was light. Interesting. I feel like I'm having a hard time imagining it. I feel like it's one of those things where if I saw it, I feel like I'd understand it maybe. Okay. Again, get some, like I said, get some water in between these two layers. So then, and look at what we just created, guys. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I feel like these parts are just so beautiful, and they have to come back in on the form, whether it's a handle or some other attachment. But I just think they're too beautiful to let not exist. Oh, well, one side is now butchered. Oh well. I'm still gonna use it, but does that kind of make sense? Desk. So you can see that side's kind of screwed up, but again, that's okay. Zoom. Here we are. Imagine a black pot, and it's like line-looking line patterns. Huh. Does it look really organic? You know, like really, or like not organic, really uniform. Like it's like perfect roundness, and they're just pulling this tape, and it's like zzz, and breaking away the line. Because I feel like if that's it, I know what you mean. All right, so again, we're just trying to clean up some of this stuff down here. We're looking around here. What do we got? We got to emphasize that little line that we kind of put there. And what does this line do on the bottom, right? Let's zoom into that. Close in. Camera B. Do you see this little line? That's a glaze catch, right? So always, I'm putting an ash glaze on top of these with maybe a Shino glaze underneath. Ash glaze loves to run. Have lines at the bottom acting as a buffer for your glaze. right? Shino's never gonna run, right? You get a millimeter glaze line above the ground, Shino, you're totally chilling. But Ash glaze loves the drip. Any glaze, I love when things pull through other glazes. I like that I would love that on here, but I gotta make sure I have a line down here to catch that glaze. You'd be surprised how many pots you'll save just by adding that little line there. Alrighty. DJ my life. Camera B. Oh wait. Zoom. Good. Ka-chow. Pow. Last night the DJ saved my life. Woo! Camera A. Boom, boom, boom. All right, we gotta grab another little thing here. Camera B. Shelf. Here we go, guys. We gotta get another bat on the wheel, and then right here, we got a wet box full of a bunch of clay. I've been reclaiming some clay. Also got some really hard clay. The hard clay we'll save for later. We kind of want to use some of the softer stuff right now. Well, this is all kind of hard, right? Like if I really poke into the clay, like if there's some resistance, right? Like I wouldn't be able to just like, right? Like I'm checking for a grapefruit, right? I'm squeezing and it's only leaving a little bit of a mark, right? If I squeeze like a grapefruit normally, I'd get a lot more squish in there. So it's almost rubbery, right? Rubber soft, that's what I'll call this. Camera A. Zoom. Yeah, we might be okay. But you can tell how stiff it is. I should have wet this down, ideally, but we're gonna see if we can just hook my fingers, right underneath there to make sure I keep that seal as I'm pulling up this clay. The thing with throwing with hard clay, you wanna make sure you're stretching the clay and not ripping or tearing. That's really an important part. There we go. Right underneath. Space. Camera B. Watch out, it's going to want to tear there, right? Start bringing that down. Zoom. Take that left hand, bring that up to that, or the right hand, bring it up to that left hand. Wherever you start seeing that wobble, push in and slowly bring that up, back to that left hand. That left hand, that's your home base. Don't get too far from home base. You're gonna get out. Hammer fist coming right down on top. Think about your hand as like Mjolnir, right? That's Thor's hammer. Only those who are worthy can pick it up, and we're not worthy. We're not worthy, that's why it's down. Let's slowly walk this out. And it's not perfectly centered, but we're not too worried about it being perfect, right? We just want to make sure we get it close enough. If it's close enough, we're ready to cruise. Thumbs down. A little bit of water, fill up that pond. Cut through that clay. Go towards that middle. It's not really even on this bottom, but that's okay. Again, we're just trying to bring that out to the side here. How's that looking? That's looking pretty good. Seems like I got some air actually trapped underneath, so kind of my earlier take on not wetting this and kind of drying that off. I think I actually trapped air underneath here. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but we're not too worried. We're going to continue forward. A lot of people get all upset with air bubbles and they try to fix them. No, I don't mind a few air bubbles. I never really had too many problems with things blowing up. It's usually because if I'm in a firing, I get to have some control over the atmosphere that it's in, right? So usually I'm fortunate enough to be in a place where the schedule is pretty dang slow. You can actually make hollow objects, right? With no venting hole if you fire them slow enough. Slow during a certain phase, I should say.
You're listening to my favorite DJ. It's
DJ Smooth Beat. There we go. Our water here is so thick. This isn't even water anymore. It's slip. So we're gonna head over here. We're gonna give us a new clean setting of some water here. How's this looking? Pretty good? Sweet. Right back down. Make sure that rim is not getting too thin. I can bring this up just a little bit here. It's a little bit wet. Get all that stuff out of his bottom, because pretty soon we're not going to have access to it, right? Close in. Camera B. Here we are. Fingers in. Okay, now we got it all nice and evened out. I'm gonna collar that up and in. You're gonna be careful, because when you bring stuff in, it's gonna get more inconsistent, right? That's okay. I'm gonna go back into close in. Close in. And right underneath. Take a breath, hang out here, right? There's our shoulder. So start coming in from here towards that 7 o'clock range. And you can kind of see how we're roughing out the form. We're pitting our shoulder. We got that established. We're going to get the rest of this water out of that interior. Alright. And there's our shoulder. So again, one more time, we're going to start bringing this in here. And from this point, we're going to do some nice collaring. Slowly squeeze this in and slowly bring this up. There's weird little folds, so that's kind of throwing me off a little bit. And so I squeeze too hard, so then you can see this little line that's different here, right? The clay is too thin right in this little line. And so earlier I must have folded the clay somewhere, so the water got built up in between here. So there's a little spot where there's not really a lot of clay, and then this top rim has a little bit more. So we're gonna adjust that later on. We might keep it, depending on how it looks. But we do wanna just make sure how uneven that got there, right? So again, being right underneath. I think we're gonna start and just cut it off right now. So there's it, right underneath. And this gives us enough to start trying to collar this stuff in. Now we don't have to worry about that little line, so everything should kind of work a little bit easier. Maybe a little bit too drastic, but we really want to stop messing around. We kind of want to finish this vessel here. Establish your shoulder, walk that in. Okay. Go right down on that shoulder here, right on top. Slowly walk that in. So thin. Alright, sweet. Alright, we can cut this top rim off, and then what we'll do is we'll fold this over. And I'll kind of bolster up this little ledge. Hey, come on. So all we're trying to do is we're trying to just round this off nicely. We'll stop here. Not really liking this one though. I think this one's kind of a, this one's a bust. I'm gonna cut some of this clay off. So we just went too thin on that top. So on the next one, I'm going to be a little bit more conscious of if I fold the clay during the throwing phase or when I'm opening up that clay, because I think that's really what threw me off. But we'll leave this one as is. I'll bring this out. I'll be there whenever you call me. Yeah, this one gets a bad grade. got this right on that side, so it's gonna go somewhere on this vessel. Set that over here. Boom, boom, boom. Ba-da-dum, dum, dum, boom, 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 boom. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Little dancing on the side there. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. All right. We'll say this one's an okay spot. All right. Another pot. Done. Time to throw another one. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Camera A. Some water on this. All right, you guys ready? Get all these holes in the bottom here, so let's try to make sure we don't make that same mistake on that other one. Make sure I really cut through on this bottom edge. Zoom. Space. Camera B. Close in. Now watch. Right hand shifts in front. Now it goes into a pulling back motion to bring that back up. So you see how that they shift around, and so it's pushing, 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 coming around, clawing, pulling back as this one switches to a pushing down to a pushing forward motion. There you go again, right? We didn't go as flat, so we're probably not going to get as much of that little fold that we'd get earlier on. So this is where I messed it up last time. It's when I was opening it up. It's where I made a thin spot and a fold on the rim. So I'm trying to avoid having a fold on this edge here. We're just smoothing out the bottom, making sure everything is all cruising on down there. Does it feel good? Okay, grab your llama, guys. Llama's gonna bite right down on this rim. And slowly pull back until you get your what? You get your volcano. Here we go, guys. Get some water in there. All right, look at this. Watch these fingers. Really, this first pull, these fingers are just pushing in and raising up. Imagine there's an upside down imaginary waffle cone. And the tip's right here. This is where our finger on the outside kind of wants to get towards, right? And you'll see I'll keep this nice volcano shape. So here I am pushing right in at 6 o'clock, right? Or maybe 5 o'clock, sorry. And I'm pushing up, and where's that going? That imaginary ice cream cone, bringing that in, taper, taper, taper. All of a sudden, what we got? We got a nice little volcano here, right? So you can see how this hand is always kind of going in, right? I really want to keep that tension, because if you lose that tension, you're not fighting against it, the clay is going to start trying to move you, right? You always want to be in control of that. Again, a little bit of water right down at this bottom edge. Making sure I'm really trying to get as much of that clay and get the walls as even as I can before I try to get any more height or shape out of this, right? You can collar it one more time. You see, when I'm collaring it, I was pretty drastic with it too. I wasn't being too gentle with my collaring. If it's thick enough, you can be pretty aggressive with your collaring. And slowly walk that top rim in. So we're thinking about the shape here. Now on this one, we got to make sure we don't get too much of this liquid clay in here. So it's out, and we're gonna have this flat. Dun, 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 you'll forget me not. Bow, bow, da, ba, da, da, da. Bum, 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 you'll forget me not. Down, down, bow, 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 bow. Those were the times we had. Never was a cloudy day. Bum, 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 dun, 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 dun. Here we go. You'll forget me not. To remember. Dun, dun. You'll forget me not. Dun, bum, 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 bum. Those were the times we had. I wonder if they're actually going to play the song, or if they're just going to take the sample. Come on, you need to get in here. Forget me not. I want you to remember. Forget me not. So starting to map out how we want the form to look. We're re-wetting this top rim because this is what we want to bring, and we're going to slow our wheel down. We want to have as less centrifugal force trying to control where this goes. Once you get it about in from here, we're going to see where our wet line starts. And we're going to start as low as we can. And just slowly walk that in. Make sure we round off this top rim here. We're gonna make sure it's still thick. Once you lose that thickness there, all of a sudden it becomes a lot harder to finish your throwing, right? So again, in, slowly walk this. Say hello, how you doing? You doing good? Epic, bro. Nice to hear from you. You know, we don't normally see you out these on the wheel these days. What, me? Normal looking forms? Yes, I am talking to myself right now. But is it with myself or is it with the material, right? So look how that's looking. I really like the way this looks right now. Again, we're going to try to bring this middle in just a tad more. Okay. Give me nuts to remember. Oh, I made that way too thin. Alright, I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. Alright. Oh, we're gonna just leave it like that. I kind of like this clay and how that builds up right here. Like, look at that. I feel like that looks really pretty. There's like an uncanniness to it. It looks like a UFO is like sucking up a cow or something from the ground. Okay. I'm gonna get this little line with the sponge right on the bottom here. Oh, we gotta cut this first. Again, look at this. My slip is all, how do I even, look at that. It's just all not water. So I've just been flying through water right now. So it's a little bit frustrating, actually. I rock with you all night, away. Oh, look at that. These, we got a handle out of that one, guys. But look at that. Whew. Look at that, just right on the side here. They really just look gorgeous. Desk. With you the night away. Camera B. Close in. I'm liking this one, guys. Night away. Close your eyes, let that rhythm get into you. Relax your mind, there's nothing that you can't do. All right. Camera A. Camera A. Space. Camera B. Zoom. Again, this clay is so freaking stiff. Come on, clay. Give me a break, bro. Give me a break. Dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Bow, bow, bow. Ba-da-bow. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-dum. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Boom. Watch out for that bottom, it's getting all twisted up. It's wanting to tear, but we're not gonna let it. Close in. Camera B. Making sure. Take that right hand, we'll bring that right up into that left. Pushing down, tilting over, walking that up. Look at that. We're gonna rip there. Again, we're gonna bring that down. Up. Space. Put this down. Grab my hammer fist here. Slow walking this down. Close in. Close in. Hammer fist is down first, not moving. I'm gonna slowly walk this out. You can really get it pretty close to center there. Da, 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 yeah. Da, yeah. Da, da, yeah. To be real. Da, got to be real. Got to be real. Woo. Push it down. Slowly walking this out. Our love is here to stay. Would you rather take a faraway vacation once a year or close getaway every month? Close getaway every month. I feel like that seems really chill because I feel like a vacation is more of like a mental space rather than a place. And so if you have the opportunity to go somewhere and vacation, right? I still think functionally it has the same effect on your brain as like a big elaborate vacation would be. I'm walking this up. Okay. Start cutting this in. So watch me shift from 6 or 5 to 7 here and watch how much that brings this top in. Just from doing that nice and slow. Right? Look at that. Whew. Okay, then a far away once a year. Get to know the culture and stuff. Longer than monthly ones. Far away once a year. Get to know the culture and stuff. I guess that's true. I feel like sometimes I wonder if I don't even know the people around me, right? Like if I go out, like let's say sometimes meeting, there's so many people around that I have no idea about their lives and how unique they are as a human being. And so if I want to go experience like interesting people, I always feel like I just need to actually look around to the people that surround me. You know, sometimes I feel like we always hang out with the same groups of people all the time. So I always think interacting in social settings is like awesome. I'm always surprised on the type of people that I meet around me. I actually don't like this drop. Why is this in this song? I actually hate this song. That's so interesting. I feel like I was like trained to like this song from radio when I was a kid. But I actually don't think I like this song. That Forget Me Not song earlier, I feel like is really good though. All right. I like this one. It almost looks like a... Alright, here we go. Close in. Camera B. Do you also do other techniques besides throwing? No, I'm just a thrower really. Like any hand building stuff or sculpting, that's not really my style. We're just trying to shave the vessel, right? We're trying to get as much extra material out of the vessel as possible before we get it off the wheel. Because we're not going to be trimming these, because imagine trying to trim this without a chuck. Good luck, right? So we want to get as much of this clay off that bottom as possible. You can even see how I angled it in a little bit towards the bottom, but yes. Building and sculpting are two different worlds, I feel, throwing and building. Yeah, you know, I feel like they are different worlds, and you know, some people like to partake in both and experiment on both. I always tend to find that mine always lean more towards the wheel side of things. I only hand build if it's like necessary to finish a form, but I'm not ever looking forward to doing it, you know what I mean? Okay. We got a nice strap again. Look at that one, guys. Beautiful. Okay. Great. Again, we're shaving all that slimy stuff off there. Look at that. I really like what we got cruising on this vessel here. So we gotta do a little bit of drawing on here. What do we want on here? You know, actually, this top seems kind of nice to me, but I want to emphasize and I want to make it feel more cap-like. So we're going to start pushing up and give it almost this lid texture, right? Maybe glaze is going to fit right on that little stair step there. Just emphasize that top form kind of looking like a cap, right? Then we got a little bit of a dead space here, and so we're going to kind of just hang out in here. We're going to just... We're going to slowly go below the one that we started on. And again, we're going to keep going down. And then we're going to slowly taper it out. And so look at that. We got this almost like this honeycomb layering that's happening there. Really kind of dancing down the surface. And then we're going to start a new line right here. But we don't want this to be perfect, so we're going to go down and up. Down and up. Kind of chill. Right? Have some looseness there. Then we're going to have a really nice tight line right under the belly here. and that's gonna catch any glaze that comes off there. And maybe on this rim, we want to have 3 little lines, like boom, boom, boom. You know, just some little visual disruption. I guess I don't have to do that right now. So we got some cool forms. I feel like they're a lot more similar this time around. I feel like I'm getting a feel for how I want them to look. Shelf. Stop. Make your own rollers? I can recommend. I feel like the top is gonna break easy on this one. Yeah, they'll probably all break, but they're kind of meant to, like, think of like how a thimble works for your thumb. Your thumb's supposed to go into that little hole to create a seal, so they kind of have to be brought in more. And to be honest, I don't really mind some of that looseness, you know? On the first one, we cut it flat, right? So why not have some more fun with the later ones and lean into that little looseness? Sometimes, even if they tilt a little bit towards where your thumb would be holding it, I feel like those are those small moments that can really make an object feel comfortable, right? Like, if some objects, I feel like some objects are made for you as if you were a robot. Here, camera A. Think like your diner, or your, maybe not diner mugs, but like a mug you'd get at the store, right? Like, that's for you, robot version of you, right? That manufacturers are trying to sell to you, right? Then there's objects that are like supposed to be super ergonomic, right? So those are kind of about you, but it's more about design rather than you, right? But then there's this like weird space into Alright, can you guys hear me again? I think you guys can. It's gonna die again here in a second. I have a different one, but the main thing is not working. Music's still blasting though. Yeah, but cut off at that weird space at, let me try to rethink. So I'm just trying to explain, like, maybe it'd be better if I show you guys this too, okay? So, camera B. Okay, so we got this here, okay guys? So let's just look at this for a little bit. The little funnel underneath, that's not really a nice contour. Like, look at the negative space there. It's a little bit too sharp, so it doesn't look designed. It's like unflattering in some areas. There's also some looseness in the actual rim. Do you see that looseness here? But the clay's like building up in a weird way, so it's kind of like the surface is bouncing off into the realm of form a little bit. So there's something interesting there. Then I have these weird little tack marks, and this is just some like visual mumbo jumbo to like emphasize some of the cool crevices of the form. Like, look how there's this dark shadow, and then right underneath the dark shadow, there's this line that's an even darker shadow, like that cut. right? So there's a lot of visual light complexity that's happening in some of these areas, right? I mean, look at that top. Look at how this becomes a bank of light. And this is really functioning as like a tree for shade. All right, guys, tell me if the buzzing is too annoying, because it's gonna be like a little bit buzzing, I feel like. So I'm sorry in advance, because right now it's charging while it's that. But I was just saying, like, how all these different things start functioning in a different way, right? Like I was talking about this line sitting underneath the shadow here, right? And then one sitting above that shadow. So there's this like weird contrast that happens when light hits it from above. It creates a shadow. So then this little dark line is compressed close to this. This is a focal point almost. But these larger flat sides of light in these areas, and on this top especially, do you see how it become like these little banks of light? But really look at how that curve gets so heightened in the way that light hits that edge there. It makes this really look like a bank, and this top thing is like a tree. And I was just saying, like, sometimes to get it into that idea of like when you hit, why I was hitting this is, watch how I'm tilting it over to one side a little bit, right? And maybe this is where I'll set the handle, and so it will almost feel like this thing is like reaching for my thumb to go inside, right? It's a subtle clue to maybe the intention behind the vessel, right? Because to get the whistle, I'm going to put a whistle in this thing. So when I tilt it forward into the other vessel, it's going to make the sound from that whistle. But if I close the air, so now air can't be an intake here, and air only can go through a little whistle in this, it's going to whistle on the way back too. So I'm just kind of thinking about, like, really have fun with looseness, but try to be intentional with how it works. I feel like sometimes, like, looseness can be like a daunting thing to undertake, right? Camera A? Because, like, I think it's just so much on a line where it's just not gonna feel good sometimes, right? But I feel like you really only get to figure that stuff out when you make multiples of them, right? Yeah, I don't have any I have this weird throne whistle I can show you guys quick. So this one's kind of fun. So this is zoom. Okay. So this is this weird little whistle. It's a throne with a sealed top. So I just pinched that closed. So then I tilted it over. Then I put a little fipple and whistle holes, and I pierce through. So this is a purely thrown whistle, no added hand-built parts, right? Right? Kind of fun. And so I was making whistles just purely off the wheel. But here's one of the hand-built ones. Ba-da-bow, bow, 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 bow. Ba-bow, bow, bow. Dun, 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 dun. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Dun, 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 dun. Da-da-da. Space. Camera B. Bring it back up to that left hand. Feed the left hand, guys. Close in. Watch that shift back over in front. Left hand becomes the pressure forward. Just carve that, pull that right back up. There we go. Again, we got to make sure we get that base nice and tame. That's going to help us to get it nice and centered. Bring that up. And then bring this down. Grab that hammer fist. And watch that pressure. You see how the clay is tilting forward? That shows you how much pressure I'm pushing this forward, right? And it's that fist coming down from that middle, then banking out right back towards yourself, right on that edge here. That's when the clay gets pinched and squeezed right to center, right? Yeah, space is just the trigger word for the movement of it. Like going to space, it's up higher, right? Slow my finger down, but really use my finger as a cutting tool. Really, it's just this one finger that's carving all the way up into this section. If you cut this in half, it'd be like a U shape from this top. It goes, right? I have this massive undercut here. So then when I bring this in, watch this. Zoom. His hands are gonna come across. Llama's gonna bite down around this rim. I'm slowly pushing my left hand forward as my right hand is slowly pulling back. And then watch what we're gonna get. We're gonna get a nice volcano here. Look at that, volcano time. All right, here we go. If you didn't have to think about time, money, content, would you rather work on a single big perfect project or sets of multiple works? That's a really difficult question. If I didn't have to think about time, money, and content, how much does time, money, and content influence what I make? Quite a bit, right? I think I would really spend time on multiples, but they'd all be for like a single goal, I feel like. I've always wanted to do like, just have like a whole entire woods filled with just like, you walk through the woods and there's just like pottery and patches, right? Like fungus growing out of a large, just like a huge installation, right? And like really get into the micro, maybe even have like really small little vessels inside the forest of the large vessels. And just like maybe even like little mini sculptures of things too. Just like hidden, right? The middle's kind of screwed up right now. Push this down. Cylinder. Ready to close that in? Would you want to live in those woods? Yeah. I'd die there. Low hum on the mic. It's audible now that the music stopped. Ah. All right, hold on. Let me turn the music back on then. But now you can hear that hum, right? So that's the one thing I always don't like is I wish whenever you charge something while you use it, it has like this weird humming, right? So that's the one thing I don't like. But we're not gonna worry about it too much, you know? Oh yeah, I can't even see you guys' comments now. Yeah, I don't know if it's the device or the computer though, or the microphone. Alrighty, here we go. So you guys see how I force that fold, right? So thin out that clay underneath, and I force that fold from having pressure from the top. Close in. Camera B. So really just look at the visual weirdness that's happening there. Imagine glaze pulling up underneath that too. Just such a funky little moment on the vessel. We have the opportunity to set that there, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the coolest part about the whole process. It's like these little moments where you get to just like totally just make one move and it just changes everything. It's so powerful, right? Underneath this edge again. Slowly walking this up and in. Close this. Now we have a solid vessel. So this is what's going to become that second chamber. And eventually, oh, I kind of screwed that up there. But eventually, right? This will be flipped upside down. This will be the bottom of the second chamber where the whistle will go through. So you see how much clay I'm really trying to carve underneath of that vessel there, right? Give me an idea for the future though. You could add a directional mic on the clay wheel for the ASMR sounds. You wouldn't even need directional microphone. Yeah, the only thing is what you can't hear right now is my wheel is actually like it has this really annoying like squeaking, like it's really bad. So if I feel like if I had a directional microphone, like I can already imagine all the comments would just be like, for the love of God, turn that squeaking off, you know. Like for me, it's so audible right now. Sometimes I'm so confused on how you guys can't hear it. But yeah, it's really annoying. Even when I'm editing clips, like sometimes I'll hear it and it's like bothers me. So I thought about that, but I just think I don't want to get them like too like particular on the audio, right? Because I can just imagine it being not a great outcome. Grease to 80/40 and grease. Yeah, I mean, I haven't opened up my wheel before, so I don't even know what's inside. I've only ever opened up the pedal to change the speed in which something twists, but I've never actually like taken the wheel head off. But I don't even know if it's the wheel head. It could also be the belt. You know what I mean? So I think maybe there's something wrong with the belt. Oh, well, making... That's so funny. That is true. Going, yeah, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. But, yeah, you're right. That is true. That is true. I have been thinking about getting another microphone, but not for down here. But maybe I do get a nice, like a boom microphone. And I could have the audio tracks shift when I need to walk around with the foot pedals, and maybe that's what the foot pedals would be. Look at that, it just looks great. Just like want to have something kind of interesting right here, you know? I think I like that. All right, there we go. You gotta keep watching to find out. Sadly, he's got... I've been really interested in making whistles out of clay. Is this one going to work? I've only made a few 6-hole ocarinas. So these aren't really for... I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess I gotta have... I just got them out of the kiln, the newest water whistles. I'm gonna bring them here tomorrow. So maybe I gotta do a video with the whistles so then people get to understand what the heck I'm making. And then I can just play it as a commercial, like this is what I'm making. And then it's like a 1-minute explanation. Which will be nice once I finally have some of the finished ones. Which will be good. I see what you mean. Just have it around rather than in a video format. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. It's actually probably a good idea. I can just have them with me, right next to me. Okay. Camera A. Alright, how many more we got? Okay. This clay's getting really stiff. That's okay. We gotta get some more water in this one though. Something we will do. Yeah, I can do more of those live explanations. It's so funny you said that. I had some other people, some people at my work, they like those explanations too. I thought they were funny. Alright, here we go. You know, it's so weird, I haven't got to use my heat gun very much. I feel like I gotta do something to do that, you know? Alright. Make a large two-sectional object. And then bring it together on the wheel. Do you work in ceramics, or is this more of a very expensive hobby? I do it for work. I'm a teacher at a couple different places. Camera B. Space. And watch me tilt this down, right? And so watch this right hand. It's pushing forward wherever I see this wobble, pushing forward, and then I'm leading that back up. That left hand, so it's like feeding that left hand, right? Close in. Knees down. Push forward and watch this transition where the left hand is now pushing. All right, and again, we're gonna bring this up. All right, now we're just trying to work out some of the hard bits and pieces in the clay and make it more homogeneous, right? Because I let this dry, and this clay is actually pretty stiff. I call it rubber soft, right? There we go. Have you seen the video short about some sculptors making busts of ex-partners out of clay so you can throw punches at them? No way, what the heck? I have not seen that. I feel like my feed and what I get is more like feral hog research videos. That's always end up what I'm getting here. But you know, I'm pushing this forward. This clay is really stiff, but we're going to keep pushing forward. I think we have a really weird bubble in here, but we'll see how this goes. So now water down the inside here. Taking our finger. So do you see how this wants to fold? So we can't let that fold, right? Smoothing out that base. Pinch on here. Zoom. Zoom. I'm slowly going to bring my right hand and bring that back as my left hand palm is kind of pushing forward. What are you getting? You get a little volcano here, right? But you wanted a cylinder, right? We all want cylinders. Right back down to the bottom. Push from the outside. And kind of scoop up that clay and say, hey clay, get up in the vessel here. And we're really not trying to get height here, we're trying to even out those walls. Always even out those walls first before you do anything else. Here we go. Camera B, right down here, right? Look down here, and what are we seeing? We're seeing it's a little bit uneven. So what are we gonna do? We're actually gonna split this and push down the unevenness. I'm feeling at this bottom, is my finger on the inside getting kicked around? If not, nope, I'm ready to go. So here I am. I'm gonna be right underneath. I'm looking for this little bump. And you know, once the clay is so hard, you wanna make sure you have as much focused tension as you can. You don't wanna be loose. You really wanna be tight to that clay. You're going to be slow and consistent with your movements there, so you can kind of shape the clay rather than let the clay push you around, right? That's the biggest danger. I feel like a lot of people let the clay start pushing them around rather than really trying to carve out their object. That's also why I like throwing with harder clay, is because you can really carve out your object, right? Okay, again, down, out. This out a little bit wider. Zoom. This whole line here. So I'm going to bring this in. And watch me then take this out again. And then watch me make this round. Grab that little line there and start walking that in. So look how we have just a nice two little soft bumps there, right? I recommend using soft or hard clay for my students, especially first timers. I always say first timers should use the soft stuff because they don't even know what it feels like to actually move material, right? Like, I think a lot of people just get into this idea of squish and squeeze. And so when they start thinking less about squish and squeeze, and it's more about push and pull, right? When they make that shift and they start being able to move clay, right? I think too often people can't move it. Once you can move it, if you're trying to get height, I would say transition into harder clay. And it also makes it so you get really precise on the way that you are moving things. Because to keep the hard clay center, you kind of need to push in those right areas a little bit more so you really feel where those locations are at, right? That's my personal opinion on it. So when I slow and I can bring this top rim, if I bring that over to from 5 to 7, you can see how much I bring that rim in, right? I feel like I only can do those if the clay is, stiff enough to actually hold that shape as it's slowly being pushed inward, right? Okay. Start right on the shoulder. Slow that wheel down. Really making sure we collar that in. What is the very first step you teach to a new student who has never had any experience in making something? I take their left hand and I say, just set that on your leg, set that on your hip, set that in your stomach, and literally just push the clay over, right? Because so many people try to push it to the center, and they're not trying to push it over. As soon as they get the idea that they have to push through the clay, I think a lot of the other processes come a lot more naturally, right? Even when you're doing a pull, like there's so much pushing in towards that center, towards that squish, squeeze, right? And when it's more of that shift and across and over and past, right? Like I'm never aiming at the middle, I'm always aiming over here somewhere, like I'm pushing across the vessel. What would you have for people wanting to go into pottery professionally? Advice? I don't know. I don't sell anything, so I'm a bad person for advice. I'm just a teacher. That's the only reason I wouldn't even classify myself as a potter, to be honest. I just teach pottery classes. Like I've never done any of the sales things. I've never done any of that. Not kneading the clay, you sit them in front of, not kneading the clay, you sit them in front of a object on the wheel. Yeah, because I think most people, they really struggle with wedging actually. I feel like most people when they first start, they can't wedge, and people have a short attention span, so if you just keep hammering down on this wedging thing at the beginning, they'll never even get to make something their first or second day if you really take it seriously, right, on how I would teach them. So then they never actually get to do the things that they signed up for, even though it is what they signed up for. Their perspective is they get to make a cup, right? And so it's a little bit different from how I teach like if I was trying to teach someone to like really be like learn the wheel, I would teach them differently than I teach them if I'm teaching a pottery class, right? And so I find if you can have the students make something after that first class, like if they have things made on the wheel, like you're building up that they want to be there, they want to keep pursuing, because some people I think are so overwhelmed by how difficult it can be at the beginning that they get super discouraged. Like I think if there was like a retention rate on classes, I would say it's like after that first day or that second day, that's when you'll know if somebody's going to continue taking the class or if they're going to like not. Goes in. Camera B. There we go. Some water in between here. Alright. What would you teach an apprentice who's locked into your lessons for at least 3 years? What would you teach? Man, I would, I don't know, like what I would want to do is I'd want to find somebody who wants to do a challenge with me, right? Like my apprentice I want to work with them on something, right? Like I want it to be like, yo dude, let's every single day, let's freaking grind something like magnificent out every day and like really challenge ourselves. And if we get to stages where you need help with something, let's sit there and like literally work through it, right? And let's finish this project together. I think I'd do something like that if I had an apprentice. That way, like you never know, like I think the interesting thing with ceramics too is like, especially when I'm teaching, I always forget how much people don't know, right? Like sometimes something happens to you once and now you like, it's baked into your memory that you're just not supposed to do something or do something, right? And then all of a sudden, like you forget that. You talk about it as if everybody else knows, and then you got to remind yourself, no, like, oh, like you only know this because you had that experience with it, right? So like, how do you explain that experience so that other people can get the information from it? Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Oh, this one looks crazy. Actually, I really like that this one's twisted up. Like, that's kind of interesting. I want to leave it twisted up, actually. Even though I know it won't look as nice twisted up, I think it's unique. I haven't seen one get twisted up like that. Like when you train as mechanics, you learn how to use a file for at least half a year before you do anything fancy. Can be deadly boring to a student that wants to create something immediately. Yeah, but I feel like I think there's so many different things that you can do nowadays. Sometimes I think that there's a lot fewer people that would actually be interested in doing that than you might think, right? Like I can imagine like in a different time period, like there's only a set amount of things that you can do because you're limited to some degree, right? Because maybe you're hyper localized in an area and you can't really, you don't have the luxuries to kind of like go off into a different area. So I feel like it's really hard now because there's so many different areas that people can go off into that they don't actually, like there's a lot less overlap than what I think. Like how many people are actually going to want to like dedicate a whole year to just doing the same thing every day and not have any like confirmation that it's going to like work just because they want to learn something, you know? Like I think now I can do something like that, but like a couple years ago, even like 2 years ago, I feel like I would really struggle to do something like that. Especially like I just am kind of like more in that obsession moment right now. So it'd be cool. I think people find what works for them and then they just kind of continue that realm. But I've always been someone who kind of likes changing things up. I know that sounds kind of funny because I did that project for a year and didn't do the same thing every day, but that's just because that was the project's like parameters, right? Like I always like changing and switching and making new things and adapting, but I feel like a lot of people didn't really get to see that side because I was just doing that one project, right? Okay. Apprenticeship is normal in your country. Wow. In life, many people don't really get to choose what they want to do rationally. Totally. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think now, like, we live in such an amazing time in the world where you can actually, like, choose. Not everybody, obviously, but I feel like there's a lot of people that I know and that I'm around and people that I see who, you know, sometimes there's not many options, right? And I understand that, but how cool is it that you still sometimes can choose, right? I think that's cool. Like I said, I can imagine like even 50 years ago, you probably don't have as much, you know, options. At least that's like when I talk to my grandparents, that's what they say. All right. There we go. People here need to pay high rent. Yeah, I've seen that a lot of places. I was even looking at, I watched this video the other day on Mexico City and how like people visiting has caused the rent to go up so much because there's so much tourism. It's kind of interesting how different places work. I feel like sometimes I only hear news about those things, like places in Mexico or Canada. I actually hear a lot of stuff about that, believe it or not. I think also because I have some friends from Canada, so maybe that's why. It hears me, it knows that people from Canada are talking to me, so like it, the internet feeds me that. Barcelona, the most popular samples, yeah. Totally. Okay, really making sure. We get that nice and even on that base. Bring this up. Nice. Interesting. Call this in just a little bit. Been to the most touristy place in the world this year. I think I told you about it very shortly. Oh yeah, when you went to get all that that stuff, you went to those markets and things. Yeah, I feel like sometimes I get stressed out in those environments. Like my favorite type of socializing is like at the grocery store or like in a parking lot. You know, we had Halloween here recently, right? And I was getting right after work I worked on Halloween, right? So right after work, you know, I'm trying to get to the store before it closes, so it's almost 10 o'clock, right? And when I'm there, this kid asked me if I was wearing a costume, like me covered in clay was a costume. And I was like, no, bro, I just got off work. And I think he was just trying to like mess with me a little bit, which is totally cool. He's a kid trying to have fun, right? And so I just like went along with that. I don't really mind, you know. I'm not like discouraged by it or anything, right? Like if I end the day and I look in the mirror and I see that I'm dirty, I'm like, hell yeah, like I did something, right? So it's just it was interesting, but some guy overheard, and I think he thought that I was like offended by it, right? And then he's like, when we got to the parking lot, he's like, man, you're an artist, you know, like yell it out to the world, right? Like I think he thought I was like ashamed I was doing it. But it was this really nice gesture, right? It was a really nice gesture of this guy. And I was like, wow, what a cool little moment, right? That just happened at the grocery store at like 10 o'clock at night, right? Like some random fellow is just trying to like uplift another human being. Kind of cool. I really like those little moments, right? Like sometimes when you're in a huge space with so many people, you actually don't get to have little moments. But I like those moments. I feel like those are the moments that I remember the most. Like if I ever talk about any of the places I've traveled to, my memories of them are always so small because I never had any of those nice, like cool, special moments. Hey, what you gotta do today? Yeah. Hey, I'm making a spray. Hey, can. It's kinda looking like a spray can. A little bit, maybe not yet. Okay. So funny. Something kind of weird about this, right? I actually have a friend, she makes, it's actually my friend from Canada. But, interesting, I was just talking about Canada and then I remember that she makes these like propane tanks, right? Out of ceramics, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like that, this soft like lumpiness there. I know that it might seem unsightly to some, but I really enjoy that. I feel like it looks like the object still looks tight. I like the way this looks. Yes. Promote and cities will buy them, tiki them. Oh, that'd actually be a really nice idea. I'm not sure if that's her vibe though. I think they're more about like, she was born in Syria, right? And the referencing like the gas for houses would come on like be like a gas person, right? Who would come to their door and drop off these. And so it's a lot about linking to memory and stuff. But if she did want to make a quick buck, for sure. Look at that. Really liking these nice loose handles here. Yeah, for sure. It's about making like ceramic bazookas. I don't know if I ever told you all about that. Maybe she can iterate on it or use it as inspiration for many other art. Sweet. All right. Said laugh out loud what? Did I do something weird to the form or what? Was I mumbling about something? Oh, the bazookas. Yeah, like just making these stacks of like a a bazooka that I thought would just be so awesome. Like, can I glaze them all together? Like, I was looking at like some paintings of like people like in their apparel, like all dressed up in the camera A. And they're like, oh, did I just get clay on that? Yeah, I did. But they're like, yes. And they have their sword. And they're like, hello. You know, or they have their dog in the background and they're just like angry. You know? And then I was thinking about how they kind of like relate to like pop culture, like fit pics, right? And I have a friend who makes paintings about that sort of stuff too, you know? So I feel like that's why I'm thinking about it in general. I was like, I imagine like somebody doing a painting of somebody holding like this ceramic bazooka. Like, it just feels so weird. Like, it'd be like super multicolor. Like, it would look so like, I don't know. Like, just uncomfortable, I feel like would be cool, right? It's like an uncomfortable image. Okay. All right, here we go. Now this is some stiff clay. I'm just looking at what we got for objects and attachments here, right? Like, you can already start looking at some of the pairings of these. Like, right now I'm making the bottoms for the other vessels, right? Don't tell your friends about your weapon works, Americans. Yeah, maybe a little bit. It's so interesting. I never think about it like that, but you know what I mean? Like, fit pics, like there's something I can imagine, just like this bubblegum pink like pottery bazooka. Like, even in like old like paintings, you'll see like there'll be a pot in the background, right? Like, pottery is like in this area, right? So what if you make the pottery something that's still pottery but not like it? Hi. So what am I making? I'm making these water whistles, like, and I'm just making a closed vessel forms, right? So these get flipped upside down and they're connected to another form via a tube. And then one of these will get a whistle in it, and maybe both of them will, but for now, just for the explanation, one of them will get a whistle. So when you tilt, water pushes the air through the whistle, through the tilting of the object. They're like these Peruvian water whistles from Peru. And yeah, just kind of I saw these in this musical instrument book, right? I actually have this book over here, and people have made ceramic banjos, horns, and all sorts of different instruments. And I've just inspired me thinking that stuff on the wheel doesn't always need to be functional in regards to eating. It can be functional in regards to like sound making, right? Does that make sense? Like, making a sound is function. All right, here we go. And we're gonna zoom. Zoom. There we go. Start tilting this forward. Camera B. Close in. See how I'm tilting this forward here? And that slowly, that pressure going over is allowing it to just slowly glide down, right? Right underneath, again. Bring this up, and we got some of this clay that's wanting to rip and tear off, so we're gonna try to scoop some of this off right now. You can see some of that. I'm not even gonna mess with it, right? Going back in, right underneath, and I pull this up. Zoom. There we go, right over top. And you see it's wobbling, but I'm gonna push this forward. I'm gonna tilt my hand, and again, I wanna use my hammer to push down this clay, right? And this clay is really strong right now. It's a stiff clay body. So this right now is what I call like rubber soft, right? It's like if rubber could be shaped, right? I'm trying to get this as centered as possible, but Again, we don't need to get it perfect. We just need to get it acceptable so we can throw the vessel form, and I would say that's acceptable, right? There's not too much undulation, but that's totally okay. So we're gonna go 2 thumbs in, creating this little hole. Get some water on the inside of this vessel here, and slowly push 1 finger down as my finger to the right of it, so I relinquish control to 1 finger in that very center, because the center point doesn't want to move. But as soon as I get off center, I get caught in the centrifugal force of the spinning, right? So if you have 2 fingers fighting for that middle, right, eventually one's going to get kicked off and have to fight centrifugal force. So relinquish the 1 finger in the center, and then use the finger next to it to push down, and then that way there's a pinch between the 2 fingers, so you keep that really nice and centered when you push down into the vessel, right? Then we're going to hook our finger, getting a little bit off, so we got to make sure we slow and we really carve and cut through that clay there, making sure we don't get a fold. Remember what happened to that fold last time, it really screwed us up. And with just that 1 finger and holding it, we can open that vessel up, right? And again, we're going to now dress up our bottom base here, making sure we don't fold any clay on the corner. Make sure we have a definitive, there you go, that's a hard word for me to say for some reason. Definitive corner, right? You want the base to hit a corner. You don't want it to be rounded, right? Because if it's rounded and uneven, every time you go to that base, you're going to be pulling up something uneven. So make sure you get a corner first. Even when I'm making a bowl, I first make a cylinder, right? Again, have that all nice. Take my hand from the top here. Get ready. Mr. Llama's going to bite down right on this rim. Slowly go right across. So, how did you learn how to make this stuff? And what made you want to do this? I haven't got to tell that story in so long. I was a drawing major, and I finished a drawing, and it was like, I felt like I was lost after I finished this drawing. It was probably my best drawing, but it was just not, like I felt nothing from it, right? Like it was like one of those things where you do it and then you just like reflect on life for a moment, right? And then my dad, he sent me Bob Marley, No Woman, No Cry, to cheer me up, and it made me feel worse. And then I totally told myself I got to swap gears. I took this elective class to try all the different crafts, right? And I was in a class that wasn't even a pottery class. It was like mold making and just like sculpting. And it kind of sparked my interest, like maybe I can do this. So then I tried it. And then I just told myself, well, this is it. I'm not going to give myself no more options. I'm going to do this. And I just kept at it, right? And so that's kind of my origin with ceramics. And I'm just really stubborn, and so that's why I'm continuing to do it now. I always say, like, I don't really like ceramics. It's just like the thing that fills me with value, right? If you could choose, what would you pick? Access to a fully loaded state-of-the-art workshop with everything you can think of, but you can only work there a short time each day/week. 2, a basic workshop in your basement that you can always use. Oh, totally number 1. If state-of-the-art kiln, that's like $20,000, like a gas electric kiln. Oh my gosh, if I had that, I wouldn't care if I was there one time a week. I'd make so much use out of that day. I would literally dedicate the whole day to just being a studio zombie so I could use that studio. Close in. Camera B. So you can see what I'm doing here, right? So I'm taking my finger, I'm pushing down first. No bumping, okay. Now I can start projecting that in. Okay, now I'm going to slowly drift my finger over top so I get this little bump now. And that's all I'm doing is I'm slowly just walking this bump up. I'm saying, hello bump, how you doing? You doing well? Great, it's been nice talking to you. I'm going to have to let you go. Alright bro, see you next time. There you go. Right, and so that's how you're going to bring that up. We're a little bit thinner right here, So that's where I'm going to start collaring, right? You can even see that visually. It looks a little bit thinner there. So this is going to be kind of a taller object. So maybe we can do something funky with this one, right? Would you pay to use it? Oh yeah, for sure. Those kilns, they're the kiln called Blau kilns. It's my dream. If I ever own one of those in my life, I would just leave everything and just do pottery every single day for the rest of my life. It's that cool of a kiln. I want to make sure I get this a little bit more, but you can see we're going to do a forced collapse. Stop that there. Then we're going to do another one. Maybe we leave that collapse there and we create a sharp edge here and try to get this back on center. We actually need to be still here for a second. Okay, now we can start from this point and bring that up. So you can see how I'm trying to just chill that out. It's going to be uneven on the top, but we can trim that down afterwards. We just want to have enough space for this guy to get on in here. Oh, you know what? We'll do that at the end because we got to close this up first. If we do that now, it's going to be too hard to get it to work out properly. This fold wasn't as nice as that other one, so that's something that's a little bit sad, but we're going to just go with it. We're not going to mess up, or we're not going to worry too much about it. But we're going to start collaring this in. Slow that down. How about we even... No, let's just chill. We gotta chill for a second. Let's close this up first, and then we can add another fold after. Okay. Create another fold here. Oh, I slowly want to close this. See how this looks. We're getting a little bit too radical with the form. It's kind of losing the integrity. Let's see if we can just finish closing this up. Can't have that dip down too much. Okay. And down. On this other side of this. So these can be flipped upside down. So look how drastic that foot ring is going to look. It's going to have a really nice contrast from the ground there. Just have a little bit of sadness right to this bottom edge here, but we can try to hide that just a little bit here. And then you know what, let's put a line on each one of these little... I kind of like that. You know what? Let's not go too crazy on this one. Let's keep some of this down here. Let's actually do something fun with this bottom edge. Maybe make it a little bit more floral. But let's keep this weight here. We're not going to get rid of it. Separate that off. So now we're throwing a different whole entire ring here. Right? Okay. So Blaukiln in the forest will get you to a state of bliss in life. Yeah, I know it seems simple, but it's such a hard task. Like, it seems simple, like just those two things, but to actually get there and be able to do that, and that's like a really long time. But I have the goal in my mind, so I hope I can get there one day. Alright, right down to the bottom edge here. Got some petals here, right? This is something that we do on the trees, right? So again, thinking about the trees was one solution to the parts that we can apply on it, right? The skirt, right? That was the foliage of the tree, but can also be something completely different, right? And so imagine this flipped over. Now it maybe even actually function like drapery, maybe some sort of like moss growing over top of something, right? There's like this covering quality to it, right? Is that a real goal you're working towards? Oh yeah, for sure. And a steady supply of materials, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I would love to make some like natural slips from the clay around me. I would still want to throw with the clay that I like to throw with, right? Like, that's important to me, but I would get some colored slip with it as well. All right, so that's kind of the things I made for today, guys. We can look at all of them a little bit here. So how's this gonna work? No. Camera A, zoom. So this is number 1, I like that. I feel like, you guys really want to see all of them? I feel like a little bit hard to. Another one here. Right. This is this one. Like a can. I don't really have a. You know what I want to do? Camera B. Shelf. Camera B. So you guys can see. You see that space there? I want to actually have a shelving unit. That's why it's called shelf, because it's going to be a shelving unit where I have all this stuff kind of just like there. So then at the very end I can be like, so these are the things I made today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. You know, like, I can do that there. Because now it's kind of hard for me to show you all of them. Right? Like, I got this one. But I kind of really like this one, to be honest. This is my favorite one, I would say. We got this guy here. I think this is okay. It's a little bit thin on top, but I'm thinking that looseness is okay because it's happening in other realms. So this is also a nice one. This is the first one of the day. It was pretty, not too much happening. It's kind of a simple form, but I think having some like tightness within an object is nice, right? Like, it gives it more focus, more intention. But camera A. Good. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. So we did some work. We have 3 or 4 more full whistle sets that we're working on now. So I'm gonna be making the tubes for them maybe tomorrow, and then I'll put them together with the whistles maybe on the weekend sometime, maybe on Sunday. So, well, yeah, we'll say maybe on Sunday is when I'll finish them. So I gotta make handles and stuff that too, but if you wanna see me finish them, and then I'm gonna be bringing in some of them so you guys can hear what they look like, maybe on the weekend on Sunday. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. How does my ending go, my outro? Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and strong mentality. Ka-chow.